The cold and hunger were about to finish me completely, and I felt like the end of my life had come. I took off my worn-out coat and checked its pockets.
Hidden inside the coat lining, wrapped tightly in plastic, I found that thing that would change my life.
I quickly tore the plastic bag and couldn't believe my eyes.
It was full of money, and I was exhausted from hunger.
Where did this money come from? Should I take it to the police or should I run to the restaurant on the corner? I thought the right thing was to go to the police station. This was a big mistake. Or was it not? I was already a homeless man ignored by everyone who couldn't remember his past. What could happen anyway?
But I did it, and immediately got up from that wet sidewalk and ran to the police station. The police checked the serial numbers. Their faces turned white. The money was from an unsolved kidnapping case, a missing businessman, ransom paid 5 years ago. Then they took my fingerprints. Who was I really? Why did I have ransom money? What happened 5 years ago? If you're ready to be shocked, sit back and witness my story. We're starting. My name is John. At least that's what people call me on the streets. I don't know my real name. I don't remember anything before 5 years ago. No memories, no identity, no past. Just darkness where my life should be. I'm 43 years old, or so the doctors at the free clinic told me based on my appearance. I've been living on the streets of Boston for 5 years. Every day is the same. Wake up cold, find food, survive until tomorrow. I sleep under the Interstate 93 overpass. There's a spot between 2 concrete pillars where the rain doesn't reach. I share it with 3 other men. We don't talk much. On the streets, words are expensive. 5 years ago, I woke up in an emergency room. A nurse told me someone found me unconscious in an alley, head bleeding, no ID, no wallet, nothing. The doctor said I had a severe concussion. They asked my name. I couldn't answer. They asked where I lived. Nothing. They asked if I remembered anything. Blank. Retrograde amnesia, they called it. Sometimes temporary, sometimes permanent. They kept me for 3 days, ran tests, found nothing. No missing person reports matched my description. No one came looking. When they discharged me, a social worker gave me the name John Doe and sent me to a shelter. I tried to build a life from nothing. The shelter helped for a while. I got a dishwashing job at a diner. Lasted 2 months before the owner fired me. Said I was too slow, too distracted. Truth was, I kept having flashes, pieces of memories that made no sense, a woman's laugh, a child's voice, the smell of expensive cologne. After that, I stopped trying. The streets became easier than fighting ghosts I couldn't remember. I panhandled for food money. Most people walked past like I was invisible. Some threw coins. A few stopped to talk, to ask my story. I told them the truth. No memory, no past, just existing day to day. The coat I was wearing that night, I found it in a donation bin outside a church 6 months ago. Heavy, warm, torn in places, but better than freezing. I never checked the lining, never had a reason to. But that night was different. January cold, the kind that seeps into your bones and doesn't leave. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. My body was shutting down. I could feel it. The weakness, the dizziness, the acceptance that maybe this was how it ended. I took off the coat to use as a blanket. That's when I felt it. Something stiff in the lining near the left inside pocket. The fabric was ripped, and I pulled at it. The plastic bundle fell into my lap. I stared at it, confused. My fingers were numb from cold as I tore it open. $100 bills, stacks of them, bound with rubber bands. I counted with shaking hands. 100 bills, $10,000. My first thought was food, hot soup, bread, coffee. My second thought was shelter, a real bed, heat, safety. My third thought was run. Take this money and disappear before someone realizes I have it. But something stopped me. A feeling deep in my gut that this money was wrong, dangerous, connected to something terrible. I sat there for 10 minutes holding a fortune, starving and freezing, trying to decide. The right thing was obvious. Take it to the police. Let them figure it out. But the streets teach you that doing the right thing often gets you hurt. Still, I couldn't keep it. Whatever this money was, whoever it belonged to, it wasn't mine. I stood up on shaky legs. The police station was 8 blocks away. I wrapped the money back in the plastic, stuffed it inside my coat, and started walking. The streets were empty at 3 in the morning. My breath came out in white clouds. Each step was harder than the last. But I kept going. The Boston Police Department's 12th precinct sat on Tremont Street, all brick and fluorescent lights. I pushed through the front doors into warmth. The desk sergeant looked up. He was young, maybe 30, with tired eyes. He saw my dirty clothes, my unwashed face, and his expression shifted to annoyance. "No loitering. Shelter's closed, but there's one on—" "I need to report found money," I interrupted. He blinked. "What?" I pulled out the plastic bundle and set it on the counter. "I found this. $10,000. I think it might be stolen." The sergeant stared at the money like it might bite him. He picked up his radio. "Captain Blake to the front desk. Priority." 2 minutes later, a woman in her 50s came through a side door. She had short gray hair and the kind of face that had seen everything twice. "I'm Captain Blake. You found this money?" "Yes, ma'am, in my coat lining. I don't know how it got there." She pulled on latex gloves and carefully unwrapped the plastic. She examined the bills, then picked up one stack and held it under a desk lamp. "These are hundreds, bundled professionally." She looked at me. "Where exactly did you find this?" "I was sleeping under the I-93 overpass. I took off my coat and felt something in the lining. I tore it open and found this." "And you brought it here instead of keeping it?" "Yes, ma'am." She studied my face like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "What's your name?" John Doe." "Your real name?" "I don't remember my real name. I have amnesia, 5 years now." Her expression changed. Something flickered in her eyes. Suspicion, maybe. Or recognition. "Sergeant, bring me the scanner. I want serial numbers on every bill." She turned back to me. "You're going to need to wait here while we process this." "Am I in trouble?" "I don't know yet. Sit down." I sat on a hard plastic chair against the wall. The warmth of the station made me drowsy. I watched Captain Blake and the sergeant scan bill after bill, typing numbers into a computer. After 20 minutes, the sergeant said something I couldn't hear. Captain Blake's face went pale. She picked up a phone and made a call, speaking quietly. 5 minutes later, 2 detectives came through the front door like they had been running. One was tall and bald, the other short with a beard. They went straight to Captain Blake. They talked in urgent whispers, looking at the money, looking at me. The tall one pulled out his phone and showed her something. She nodded. Then all 3 of them walked over to me. "John," Captain Blake said carefully, "these bills are flagged in our system. They're ransom money from an unsolved kidnapping case 5 years ago." My heart stopped. "Kidnapping?" The tall detective stepped forward. "I'm Detective Morris. This is Detective Chen. We need to ask you some questions. Where did you get that coat?" "A donation bin, 6 months ago, outside St. Mary's Church on Beacon Street." "And you never checked the lining before tonight?" "No, I just wore it." Detective Chen wrote everything down. "Do you remember anything from 5 years ago? Anything at all?" "No, I woke up in a hospital with no memory. They said I had a concussion." "Which hospital?" "Boston General." The detectives exchanged looks. Detective Morris pulled out a tablet and showed me a photo. "Do you recognize this man?" It was a professional headshot. A man in his 40s, dark hair, expensive suit, confident smile. He looked successful, important. I stared at the photo. Something tugged at the edges of my mind, a whisper of familiarity, but nothing solid. "I don't know. Maybe, I'm not sure." "That's Robert Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Technologies. He was kidnapped 5 years ago. Ransom of $5 million was paid. During the exchange, there was a car accident. The kidnappers escaped. Mitchell vanished. The money was never recovered." I felt dizzy. "You think I was involved?" "We think you might be Robert Mitchell." The room tilted. I gripped the chair to steady myself. That's impossible. I'm homeless. I don't remember being anyone important. Captain Blake knelt in front of me. Head trauma can cause amnesia. If you were in that car accident, if you hit your head hard enough, you could have lost everything. Memory, identity, your entire life. But someone would have recognized me. Someone would have been looking. We were looking, Detective Morris said. But Mitchell's face was all over the news for months. If you were living on the streets, changed by trauma, dirty and thin, people see what they expect to see. A homeless man, not a missing CEO. Detective Chen held up a fingerprint kit. We need your prints and a DNA sample. If you're Robert Mitchell, we'll know within hours. I held out my hands. They rolled my fingers across the ink pad, pressed them onto cards. They swabbed the inside of my cheek for DNA. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait, Captain Blake said, and we make some calls. But I didn't know that those calls would bring people from my forgotten past, people who would recognize the man I used to be. They moved me to a small interview room, gave me coffee and a sandwich from a vending machine. I ate slowly, my mind racing. Robert Mitchell, CEO, kidnapped, 5 million ransom. None of it felt real. I was John, a homeless man who slept under bridges, not some rich executive. But the money in my coat said different. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, Detective Morris came back. His face was serious. The prints are a match. You're Robert Mitchell. I couldn't breathe. You're sure? 99.9%. DNA will take longer, but the fingerprints don't lie. He sat across from me. We've contacted your family. Your wife is on her way. My wife? Sarah Mitchell. You've been married for 15 years. You have a daughter, Emma. She was 8 when you disappeared. She's 13 now. A wife. A daughter? A whole life I couldn't remember. What if I don't recognize them? Then we'll deal with that when they get here. But Robert, they've been looking for you for 5 years. They never stopped hoping. He left me alone again. I sat in that room, drinking bad coffee, trying to force memories that wouldn't come. I had a family, people who loved me, a daughter who grew up without a father, and I had no memory of any of them. 30 minutes later, the door burst open. A woman ran in, followed by a teenage girl. The woman was beautiful, mid-40s, dark hair streaked with gray, eyes red from crying. The girl looked like her. Same eyes, same face shape. They stopped when they saw me. The woman's hand flew to her mouth. "Robert," she whispered. I stood slowly. "I'm sorry. I don't remember you." She crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped her arms around me. She smelled like lavender and something else, something familiar that made my chest ache. "It's okay," she sobbed into my shoulder. "It's okay. You're alive. That's all that matters." The girl, Emma, hung back. She watched me with cautious hope, like I might disappear again. Sarah pulled back and looked at my face. "You look so different, thin and tired. But it's you. I knew it was you the moment I saw you." They said I was kidnapped, that there was an accident. Yes, 5 years ago. You were taken from your office parking garage. They demanded 5 million. We paid. But during the exchange, something went wrong. The FBI said there was a crash. When they got there, you were gone. The kidnappers were gone. The money was gone. We thought you were dead. Tears streamed down her face. I buried an empty casket. I told Emma her father was never coming home. And here you are. Emma stepped closer. "Do you remember anything? Anything at all?" I looked at her. 13 years old, my daughter. I should feel something. Recognition, love, connection. But there was only fog. "I'm sorry. I woke up 5 years ago with no memory. I've been living on the streets ever since." She started crying. Sarah hugged her. Detective Morris came in with Captain Blake. "Mrs. Mitchell, we need to ask Robert some questions about the accident, about what happened." "He doesn't remember," Sarah said firmly. "We understand. But we need to try." They asked me to describe anything I could recall from 5 years ago. The hospital stay, the alley where I was found, any details. I told them everything, which wasn't much. They showed me photos from the kidnapping investigation, security footage of me being forced into a van, pictures of the ransom drop site, the crashed car where the exchange went wrong. Nothing triggered memories, just blank spaces where my life should be. The coat, Detective Chen said, we need to trace its origin. If it was donated to that church bin, someone put it there, someone who had the ransom money hidden in the lining. Could have been one of the kidnappers, Morris suggested. Maybe the coat belonged to Robert. Maybe it got donated by accident with the money still inside. Or maybe Robert hid the money himself, Captain Blake said quietly. During the kidnapping, during the escape, maybe he was trying to protect it. Everyone looked at me. I shrugged helplessly. I don't know. I don't remember. Sarah took my hand. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. You're alive. You're home. We'll figure out the rest. Those experiencing such moments understand that coming home to strangers who claim to love you is terrifying and beautiful at the same time. The police finished their questions around 7 in the morning. Sarah wanted to take me home immediately, but the detectives needed more time. Medical evaluation, formal identification, paperwork. Dr. Lisa Park, a neurologist, examined me in the hospital attached to the precinct. She shined lights in my eyes, asked questions, tested reflexes. The amnesia is consistent with severe head trauma, she said. An MRI would tell us more, but after 5 years, recovery is unlikely. The memories might be gone permanently. So I'll never remember? I asked. I can't say never. Sometimes triggers can unlock lost memories. A smell, a sound, a familiar place. But you shouldn't expect sudden recovery. That's rare. Sarah was waiting when I came out. Emma sat beside her, quiet and watchful. Can we go home now? Sarah asked Detective Morris. Yes, but stay local. We may need to talk to Robert again as the investigation continues. Sarah stood and took my arm. Let's go home. We walked out into cold morning sunlight. Sarah's car was a black SUV, expensive and clean. I climbed into the passenger seat feeling out of place. Emma sat in back, still watching me like I might vanish. Sarah drove through Boston streets I didn't recognize. She talked as she drove, filling the silence with gentle updates about our life. We live in Brookline now, same house. Emma goes to Brookline High. She's in 8th grade, honor roll every semester. You'd be so proud of her. Emma looked out the window, pretending not to listen. I took over the company after you disappeared, Sarah continued. Mitchell Technologies. I'm CEO now. It was hard at first, but the board supported me. The company's doing well. Grew 20% last year. I nodded, understanding none of it. These were facts about strangers. We pulled into a driveway in front of a large colonial house, white with black shutters, a manicured lawn, expensive cars in the garage. This is home, Sarah said softly. I followed them inside. The house was beautiful, clean, filled with expensive furniture and family photos. Photos of Sarah and Emma. Photos of a man who looked like me but wasn't me. That man smiled confidently, held his daughter, kissed his wife. That man belonged here. I didn't. Sarah showed me around. Living room, kitchen, den, upstairs to the bedrooms. She opened a door at the end of the hall. This was our room. Still is, if you want it. Or I can make up the guest room if you'd be more comfortable. I looked into the master bedroom. King-sized bed. Photos on the dresser, clothes in the closet. A life frozen in time. Guest room, I said. For now. She nodded, understanding. Of course. Whatever you need. She made up the guest room while I stood awkwardly in the hallway. Emma watched from her bedroom door. Do you really not remember anything? She asked quietly. I'm sorry. I wish I did. Mom cried every night for a year. She put up posters everywhere, hired investigators. She never gave up. She seems like a good person. She's the best person, and you were too before. Everyone said so. You were a good dad. Guilt crushed me. This girl lost her father? And now he was back, but not really, just a hollow shell with his face. "I'll try," I said. "I'll try to remember. I'll try to be who I was." "Just be here," she said. "That's enough." Sarah finished with the guest room. I thanked her and closed the door. I sat on the bed and looked around at borrowed comfort. Outside the window, the sun rose over a neighborhood I'd never seen. Inside this house, a family I didn't know waited for a man I couldn't remember being. I lay back on clean sheets and closed my eyes. For 5 years, I'd slept on cardboard and concrete. This should have felt like heaven. Instead, it felt like drowning. Little did I know that in 3 days, a single photograph would crack open my forgotten past and reveal the truth about what really happened 5 years ago. The first 3 days were the hardest. I woke up confused, forgetting where I was. The soft bed felt wrong. The silence felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. Sarah gave me space. She left for work early, came home late. Emma went to school, came back, did homework in her room. We were 3 strangers sharing a house. But Sarah tried. She cooked meals I didn't remember liking. She told stories about our past, about vacations and anniversaries and inside jokes that meant nothing to me. "We went to Italy for our 10th anniversary," she said over dinner the second night. "You proposed to me in Venice. You said it was the most romantic city in the world." I nodded, eating food I couldn't taste. "Do you remember any of it?" Emma asked quietly. "No, I'm sorry." She looked down at her plate. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered the house in darkness, looking at photos on the walls. Robert Mitchell smiled from every frame. Robert with Sarah on their wedding day. Robert holding baby Emma. Robert at company events, shaking hands, giving speeches. That man looked happy, successful, complete. I felt like an imposter wearing his face. I found myself in the den. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with business books and family albums. I pulled one down at random. Mitchell Family 2015 was written on the spine. I opened it. Photos from the year before I disappeared. Emma's 8th birthday party, a ski trip to Vermont, Christmas morning with presents and laughter. Then I saw it, a photo tucked into the back of the album, loose and forgotten. It showed Robert, me, standing next to a man I didn't recognize. We were in what looked like a warehouse, both wearing suits but looking stressed, worried. The other man was holding a briefcase. I stared at the photo. Something stirred in my mind, a whisper of recognition. The warehouse. I knew that place. I turned the photo over. Written in pencil was a date. March 15th, 2020, 2 months before the kidnapping. My hands started shaking. I closed my eyes and tried to remember. The warehouse, the briefcase, the man. And then it hit me. A memory, sharp and sudden. I was in that warehouse. The man was speaking urgently. "We have to move the money before they find out. If the SEC discovers what we did, we're finished." My eyes snapped open. SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, financial crimes. What had I done? I took the photo and went to find Sarah. Her bedroom light was still on. I knocked softly. "Come in." She was reading in bed, glasses perched on her nose. She looked up when she saw my face. "What's wrong?" I handed her the photo. "Who is this man?" She looked at it and her expression changed. Surprise, then something darker. Fear, maybe. "That's David Kemp. He was your business partner, your CFO. "Where is he now?" "He disappeared the same week you were kidnapped. The FBI investigated him for months. They thought maybe he was involved, but they never found evidence." I sat on the edge of her bed. "Sarah, I need you to be honest with me. Was I involved in something illegal?" She set down her book slowly. "I don't know. After you disappeared, investigators looked into the company finances. They found irregularities. Money moved through offshore accounts, questionable transactions, nothing proven, but suspicious. Did I steal money? The investigation was never concluded. When you vanished, it went cold. The company paid a settlement to the SEC and moved on." I stared at the photo. I think the kidnapping wasn't random. I think it was connected to whatever I did. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I thought about that too, but I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe you were innocent, that you were a victim. What if I wasn't? What if I deserved what happened? No one deserves to be kidnapped. No one deserves to lose 5 years of their life. But what she didn't know was that this photo would unlock memories that would change everything we thought we knew. I spent the next day staring at that photo, trying to force memories to surface. Fragments came in flashes: the warehouse, David Kemp's voice, fear, urgency, the briefcase full of cash. By evening, I had pieces, not a complete picture, but enough to know something was very wrong. Sarah came home at 6. I was waiting in the kitchen. I need to go back to the police. I need to tell them about this photo, about David Kemp. She set down her bag. Are you sure? Once you open this door, you can't close it. If there was criminal activity, you could face charges. I need to know the truth, even if it destroys me. She nodded slowly. Then I'll go with you. We drove to the precinct. Detective Morris was still there, working late. He looked surprised when we walked in. Mr. Mitchell, Mrs. Mitchell, what can I do for you? I handed him the photo. I found this. I'm starting to remember things. I think my kidnapping was connected to financial crimes at my company. Morris studied the photo. David Kemp. We looked into him 5 years ago. He vanished without a trace. I remember a warehouse, moving money, being afraid of the SEC. I think Kemp and I were involved in something illegal. Morris called Detective Chen. They took us to an interview room and pulled up old case files. The SEC investigation found $5 million moved through shell companies, Chen said. It disappeared into offshore accounts. We suspected embezzlement, but we couldn't prove it. $5 million, I said. The same amount as the ransom. Morris leaned forward. Are you saying you paid your own ransom with stolen money? The pieces clicked together. I think Kemp and I stole money from the company. I think someone found out. I think the kidnapping was revenge, or a way to recover the money. But you escaped with it, Chen said. The money in your coat lining, that was part of the ransom, which means you had it when you disappeared. Sarah looked pale. Robert, what are you saying? I think I tried to run. During the ransom exchange, I think I grabbed the money and ran. There was a car crash. I hit my head. I lost everything, including the memory of what I'd done. Maybe you've experienced moments when the truth is worse than any lie you told yourself. This was mine. Morris pulled out his tablet and started making notes. If this is true, we need to find David Kemp. He's the key to everything. I can help, I said. I'm starting to remember more. The warehouse was in South Boston, near the shipping docks. I can show you. Not tonight. Tomorrow in daylight we'll go together. Sarah and I drove home in silence. Emma was asleep when we got there. We sat in the kitchen, not looking at each other. I'm a criminal, I said finally. I stole money. I lied. I put my family at risk. You don't remember doing any of it, Sarah said quietly. The man you were, he made mistakes. But the man you are now, you brought the money to the police. You're trying to make things right. Will you stay, even knowing what I did? She reached across the table and took my hand. I lost you once. I won't lose you again. We'll face this together. That night, I dreamed. Not fragments, but full memories. The warehouse, Kemp and I counting cash, the plan to hide it offshore, the SEC investigation closing in, the panic, then the kidnapping. Men in masks forcing me into a van, being held in a dark room for days. The ransom exchange in an abandoned parking lot, seeing my chance, grabbing the briefcase and running, the car chase, the crash, darkness. I woke up gasping. 3 a.m. Everything was clear now. Every detail, every mistake. I got dressed and went downstairs. Sarah was in the kitchen making tea. Couldn't sleep either, she said. I remember everything, the whole thing. She turned to face me. Tell me. I told her about the embezzlement, about Kemp's plan to retire early with the stolen money, about how I got cold feet, wanted to return it, about Kemp threatening me. The kidnapping was staged, I said. Kemp hired those men. It was his way of getting the money and getting rid of me. But during the exchange, I fought back. I grabbed the money and ran. They chased me. The crash was real. I hit my head and just wandered away in shock. Ended up in that alley where someone found me. And the coat? It was mine. From that night. I must have had some of the cash hidden in the lining as insurance. The rest of the money, I don't know. Maybe it's still out there. Maybe Kemp has it. Sarah sat down heavily. So you were a victim and a criminal? Yes? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "What happens now?" "Tomorrow I show the police the warehouse. I tell them everything. I face the consequences." "You could lose everything. Prison, the company, your freedom." "I already lost everything 5 years ago. At least now I have a chance to earn it back the right way." The next morning, I told Emma the truth. She cried, angry and confused, but she listened. "I don't care what you did before," she said finally. "I just want you to stay. I'll do my best, I promise." Detective Morris picked me up at 9. We drove to South Boston, to the shipping district. I directed him through narrow streets until we reached it, an old warehouse, abandoned now, windows broken. "This is it." We went inside. Morris called for backup. We searched the empty space, looking for evidence. In a back office, we found it. File boxes, moldy and water-damaged but intact. Financial records, offshore account numbers, emails between me and Kemp. "This is enough to reopen the SEC case," Morris said, "and possibly find Kemp." 2 days later, they found him, living in the Cayman Islands under a fake name. Extradition took weeks, but eventually they brought him back. Kemp confessed everything: the embezzlement, the fake kidnapping, the plan to disappear with the money. He claimed I was the mastermind. I claimed he was. The truth was probably somewhere in between. The DA offered me a deal: full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges, 5 years probation, restitution of the stolen money, community service. I took it. The scandal destroyed what was left of Mitchell Technologies' reputation. Sarah sold the company to a competitor. We lost the house, most of our savings, started over in a smaller place. But we started over together. Emma struggled for a while. Therapy helped. She stopped seeing me as the father she lost and started seeing me as the person I was becoming. Slowly, carefully, we built something new. Not the life we had before, but something honest. I got a job at a non-profit helping homeless people. Ironic maybe, but it felt right. I knew their struggle. I could help. Sarah started a consulting business. Emma thrived in school, made friends, smiled more. 1 year after I found that money, we were sitting at dinner in our small apartment. Emma was telling a story about her biology teacher. Sarah was laughing. I was listening. And I realized something. This was home. Not the big house in Brookline. Not the expensive cars and fancy dinners. This moment. This family. "Dad," Emma said suddenly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you wish you never remembered? That you'd stayed homeless and forgotten?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," I said finally. "Those 5 years were terrible. Remembering my crimes was worse, but finding